Today we begin with another little fox that comes in people's lives, careless listening. Hello, this is Evangelist Monty Martin. We began a series entitled The Little Foxes That Spoil the Vine in the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 15. If you've missed our first lesson, be sure and go back to our site and you can find that lesson. It's failing to mind your own business. If that would be a blessing to you, be sure and go back and listen to it. Today we begin with another little fox that comes in people's lives, what we call a little gray sin, and it's simply careless listening. I believe more trouble is caused in people's lives from not listening in the right way or listening carelessly. Jesus, in the parable of the sower, said this in verse 8. He said, "And some fell on the good ground, and sprang up and bare fruit 100-fold. And then he said these things. He cried, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear." Verse 18 also continues on with this deal about hearing. It says, "Take heed therefore how ye hear, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given, whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have." First, I've got to confess, I am not a good listener. I'm not going to stand here and sit here and tell you that, first of all, they keep saying I need a hearing aid, but I'm not a good listener. I'm working on it. I pray about it. I try to deal with it. I hope if this is your problem, you also will pray with me about it. But I want you to notice in verse 18, the text does not say what you hear, but rather how you hear. I think that's a big difference. You know, there are several kinds of listeners that you'll find out in this world. I'm sure some of you husbands, you wives will be saying, "Yeah, that's my husband. Yep, that's my wife, or that's one of my kids." Let me give you about 6 of them right quick. I'm just going to list them. I'm going to say a lot about them. But first of all, there's the sloppy listener. You know the kind of person. They're looking off at the mountains while you're trying to talk to them about something, and they're staring at the sky. There's the close listener. They get right in your face because they're afraid they're going to miss one word. I don't like people getting in my space. I don't know how you feel about it, but I want them to hear what I'm saying, but back up a little bit. Then there's the creative listener. You know, these people, they are amazing. They can take a simple thing you said and create some big giant story out of that little sentence you said. What it is just they've just made their own story up, and it'll become a monster, a little fox that will spoil a lot of vines. Then there is the creative listener, the selective listener. Here he is. He selects what he wants to hear, or she selects what they want to hear. I was blessed with daughters, my wife and I've told my wife, told my daughters, I hear what I want to hear. Now, that's a terrible thing to say. You shouldn't be a selective listener. You need to listen to what they're saying completely. What if we only listen to half of what Jesus said? And said, we're not going to listen to all of it because we don't like what he's saying. That's not going to help you in your life. Then there's the greedy listener. I mean, they're so hungry for gossip, they just stay around people that they know is going to let it out. They've got their ears twice as big as usual because they're greedy for anything they can carry around. And then there's the total non-listener. This person drives me crazy. I don't know about you, but you're talking to them and they're just turning and start talking to someone else. That does not sit well with me. I try to be Christian about it, but it seems like when we are talking about something, it ought to be worth somebody listening. Now, we're going to simply pick out 3 types of listeners today for time's sake, and I find myself in some of these, work on them all the time. Number 1, there's the egotistical listener. You know, some of us pay close attention when we're the subject of what's being discussed. Have you noticed? If they're talking about you, man, your ego goes up. You can hardly stand it. It's so wonderful. What a great speaker that person is. What a great person. And boy, your ears perk up because they're talking about you. We're the subject, and we love it when we're the subject. There's also the selective listener. They refuse. Now, that's a big word, but I mean it. They refuse to pay attention to anything they don't want to hear. Refuse to listen to anything that might be controversial or might not sit well with them. And I find this a lot of times between husbands and wives and families, and, they just walk out of the room. I don't hear that. I'm out of here. And a lot of times the problem never gets solved. We need to listen. And we need to weed out what's not useful to us, but not just close people down. God would not want that. And then there's the intermittent listener, hearing only half of what's being said. Your opinion was made up. I'll be honest. Your opinion was made up before they even got to half the story. So you're through. You've already shut down. You've already closed down. You're no longer paying attention. And I want to tell you, folks, to pay attention is a mark of a genius. Most of the things we learn is from listening. And if you don't listen, you're not going to know much in this life. What about the creative listener? That's the best one I know. You listen. You have that ability. Let's just take your children, for example. You have the ability to listen to your children or your wife or your husband. You don't know how much that means to them. One of the things that causes more trouble in marriages is the wife saying to the husband, "You never listen to me," or vice versa. Or the children, especially today. We need to listen to our children. You need to understand what they're saying, because they might be saying something very important, and yet you're not listening. You're not paying attention closely, and you're liable to miss something that'll change your lives completely. You see, it's not just important that we hear the human voice, but we also need to hear the divine voice that speaks to us. The Bible refers to it as that still, small voice. Now, folks, when you can listen to what a man has to say and also interpret what he meant to say, then you've conquered the art of listening. Every man is superior in some ways to you. Same way if you turn it the other direction. You may have some superior thoughts that could help someone, but they won't listen. Talk, I heard this and it stuck with me. Talk and you're saying something you already know. But if you listen, you're learning something new. I hope this short lesson was a blessing to you today. And be sure and leave a comment if this lesson helped you in any way. And may God bless you until the next time we see you. Thank you.